We're about a month into the new NBA season, so even though there's still a lot of basketball to play, now is a good time to look at how things are going and draw some conclusions. A lot can still change between now and the end of the season, and for some teams, they need that to happen because their seasons have not started off the way they had hoped and planned. That brings us to today's video, where we'll look at the 4 NBA teams that have been the most disappointing so far and decide whether it's time to panic or if these early problems can be easily fixed to get them back on track. Before we start though, it looks like a lot of you aren't even subscribed to the channel. Enjoy the movie and let's get started. The Philadelphia 76ers are the first team to disappoint, and it's time for them to panic. The 76ers were one of the busiest teams in the league this offseason, changing over half of their roster thanks to their large amount of cap space. They signed Paul George, who was one of the biggest names in free agency, and they also brought in Caleb Martin, Big Jackson, Reggie Drummond. However, Eric Gordon and Gerson Yabas are still in last place in the results with a 2-12 record. Everything that could have gone wrong has so far, and it's hard for me to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, Joel Embiid's knee injury from last season is still bothering him, making him look like a shell of his former self on the court. He had planned to take it easy this season to make sure his knee got stronger, but now he has to rush back onto the court to try to save the team's season, which will only hurt his knee more. Paul George is also having knee problems after straining it in preseason and then re-injuring it in their game against the Grizzlies. When he's been on the court, George has also looked pretty washed, scoring only 15 points and making terrible shots. Even Tyrese Maxey has missed extended periods of time because of injuries, so their injury luck is at an all-time high. The team as a whole looks disorganized. They're the second worst three-point shooting team in the NBA right now. Their offense is by far the worst in the NBA, and all of their main players like Kyle Lowry are deeply flawed in some way. Soon, Eric Gordon and Reggie Jackson will no longer play football. Caleb Martin and Kelly are having a hard time making decisions and choosing shots. A big problem with Andre Drummond is that he is still a youngster and doesn't know how to defend himself well around the basket. The only consistent positive for the team has been Jared McCain. The way the team was put together meant that Joel Ewing had to be at the top of his game, MVP level, for the rest of the pieces to fit together. With his knee, that's not going to happen anytime soon, and everything else has been too scary to believe in, unfortunately. The next team that hasn't done well is the Milwaukee Bucks, but I don't think it's time to worry just yet. Like the 76ers, the Bucks had a terrible start to the season, winning only 2 of their first 10 games and getting themselves into a big hole that they had to get out of. The Bucks have been one of the best teams in the East for years, but this year something feels off about them. Their lineups and rotations have been all over the place, and they've had way too many mental slip-ups as a group. Their rotation is also very inconsistent, which is not how we're used to seeing the Bucks play. I will say that this was kind of a hint last year when the team had a loser's record. After Doc Rivers took over as head coach, and teaching could be one of their biggest problems right now. I still wouldn't panic on them though, because there is at least a possible way for them to get back on track. Giannis Antetokounmpo is arguably playing the best basketball of his career right now. He leads the NBA in scoring, averaging 32 points per game while shooting 61% from the field. He also grabs 12 rebounds and gives out 6 assists per game, and you can tell that his sense of urgency is rubbing off on those around him as the team has won 4 of their last 5 games to start getting back on track. They also have the return of Chris Middleton to look forward to. Middleton probably won't be the all-star player he used to be, but he's still a very important piece of their offense that gives them another threat that defenses have to prepare for. The Eastern Conference looks weak right now, so they should still be able to finish as the top seed in the conference, even though they've gotten off to a slow start. The New Orleans Pelicans are the next team that has let fans down, and it's time for them to panic as well. The Pelicans have been trying to find the right puzzle pieces for a while now, but they keep coming up with square pegs for round holes. They drafted Zion Williamson over 5 years ago with the hopes that he would be their superstar franchise pillar and lead the new era of Pelicans basketball, but they're now at a point where they need to face the truth. Zion is very good, and at his best, he's still an all-star player who can beat the pain, but he's not going to be that great of a player, and his health problems have made him too risky to count on as a franchise player. cornerstone. Besides Zion Williamson, they have Brandon Ingram, who is in the last year of his deal and probably won't get an extension. They need to decide what to do with him before the trade deadline. Dejounte Murray and CJ McCollum haven't played much so far because they've been injured, and their potential when they're healthy doesn't look very good. The Western Conference is really bad this season, with 11 teams already having records above 500. So starting the year 4-12 like the Pelicans have is a pretty big hole to dig themselves out of. Their center rotation is very young and inexperienced, so it will take time for them to gel when they do finally get healthy. But by then, it will probably be too late. The Indiana Pacers are the last disappointing team we'll talk about today, but I don't think it's time to panic just yet. The Pacers made an unlikely run to the Eastern Conference Finals last season, so this year the goal was to build on that momentum and keep moving forward. That hasn't happened yet, as the Pacers have a record of 6-9, right next to the Milwaukee Bucks in the standings, who we talked about earlier. It's easy to say that the Pacers' run to the conference finals was due to a lot of luck, since they played a very hurt Bucks team in the first round, and then Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby were hurt for the Knicks in the second round. So they were never really a contender, but they were still a strong playoff team, even if they don't look like that right now. I still don't think it's time to panic about them, though, because they've been much better on offense in the past than they are now, and their leader, Tyrese Haliburton, could not be playing worse to start the season. He can only go up from here. Helton is only scoring 15 points and handing out 8 assists per game. Last year, he led the NBA in assists while scoring over 20 points per night. He's also shooting a terrible 37% from the field and 28% from three, even though he's usually one of the best guards in the league and shoots 40% from three. Again, I fully expect him to get better over time in that area as well. It's clear that his struggles are hurting their overall offense, which is currently ranked 16th in the league after being the second best in the league last year. Again, these are areas that should definitely be improved upon in order to at least get them back in the playoff picture. That's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think about these teams going forward.
Yeah, what would you say to somebody who said you're shooting too many threes?
Fuck them. Simple, yeah.
It's about the game with TJ McCollum, RJ Barrett. Hey, career high for Scotty. Scotty, you wanted to get back into the game, and you got back into that game. Nobody on this floor wanted it more than you. How are you able to just ingest the energy that you're able to in the fourth quarter?
No, we just really wanted to come out here and win. I wanted to win really bad, so, I wanted to do whatever it takes. I wanted to be on the floor, try to give them my all. They had some runs, but we maintained it, did what we had to do, and we got the dub.